Hello, wherever you follow me from, it's with me again, Ibrahim Osonko, the host of the Dialectic Space podcast. And today I thought I'd come on really quick to really have a conversation with you all about the state of our country, which is the Gambia. Now, if you know me, you know I live and breathe everything Gambian. I love that country dearly. And that is why sometimes a lot of things happen in that country and it bothers me so much. And it begs the question why just certain things are being so normalized in our country. Now, the context here is that the Meet the People store, which a lot of us know, or the farmer store, as a lot of people would call it, is a tour that is constitutionally obligated by the president of the country and his government to go around the country annually to meet the farmers of the country in hope that he will listen to them. They will tell him their problems, and he would sort of listen to those problems in hope that he could address some of them or prioritize the things that are affecting the farmers of the country. Now, it's no secret that agriculture contributes significantly to our economy. In fact, one quarter of our GDP is from agriculture. So agriculture has always been really important, and Gambian land is arable, and farmers, especially I mean subsistence farmers, is important to a lot of Gambians for them to feed themselves. Although farming could be exploited a lot more, or explored a lot more as Gambians for us to feed ourselves in our pursuit for food self sufficiency. Because Gambians, we know we import everything. We don't make anything. The only thing that we have as a resource that we could actually capitalize on is our land and also our water, because our land is pretty fertile, right? So historically, the Meet the People store has always been there, and I think it began. Uh, I think I got this correctly. I think it actually started during former President Jaura's time, during the First Republic, and he would go around the country to meet the farmers and have a conversation or dialogue with them. And then because Jawara actually really prioritized agriculture, I think agriculture was very profoundly prominent during the era of our first president. And then Jammeh came and sort of mobbed the people's store into much more a politicized event where he would go around the country and meet the people. Jammeh, to his credit, with some of, was somewhat much more supportive to the farmers. He would provide a lot of, farming mechanized materials to them in the form of tractors, among other things. And then Jambe really prioritized farming because if you all could remember as well, Jambe used to do what was also referred to as, you know, um, return to the farm. I think he had a vision for everybody to go and farm, basically eat what you grow and grow what you eat. I remember that. I was pretty young, but I still remember that. So Jambe was not only using farming as a political rhetoric, but Jambe was also actually in the farm with people. In fact, there was a point that he was forcing or obligating every civil servant in the Gambia to go to the farms to basically be engaged in farming, as a manifestation that he must lead. He must be the first person to lead by example for other people to actually follow. So Jambe, in fact, both literally and figuratively, meant it when he said food self-sufficiency for our country. Now, when Jammeh left, the next president we had in 2016, President Adama Barrow, came into office, and the dynamics of the Meet the People store keep changing. Because it's a constitutionally guaranteed toll, it's easier for the government to always justify doing these stores, right? Because whatever you say is hard because their counter argument is, well, we need to do it. Well, there's a lot of other things that constitution guarantees that the president, they flout in very very interesting ways, and so they go for these trips, and they've been going at it for a while, right? And they go and sort of politicize it. It's much more a political jamboree. It's much more a political event than it is a mid the farmers. In fact, how many farmers would come and in fact talk to the president? An event that takes place in the form of, like people just come and talk about other politicians or talk about uh, take shots at other politicians in the country. I mean, they just talk about everything but farming, right? And I thought the significance of having this conversation is in respect to the amount of money or the country's resources that has been spent in these stores, right? And just earlier today, I was reading online. Watson Gambia reported that I think um, in 2022, the government allocated 6 million for the Meet the People store, but somehow they ended up spending 25 million Gambian dollars. And then in 2023 as well, they allocated 10 million Gambian dollars, but the government ended up spending 63 million Gambian dollars. Now, this points to the fact that this government is not serious about cutting spending. This government is not serious about their priorities. This government is not serious about meeting the constitutional mandated meet the people store for which this store is actually designed. All they're doing is to go around the country and spend so much money to politicize in furtherance of their political agenda for 2026 presidential elections. The fact that the National Assembly is not doing anything about this even point to a much more worrying trend that the Gambia has a highly redundant National Assembly who don't really care about doing their job in terms of being an accountability arm for the public. Because if the National Assembly is approving 6 million and the government is going ahead to spend 23 million, if the National Assembly is approving 10 million, the government is going ahead to spend 63 million. That's an insane amount of money for a country that absolutely has no amount uh, of enough capital for us to take care of ourselves as a country. So, what is the National Assembly doing in terms of holding the government accountable to this wanton destruction of our wealth and resources, and very meager resources, I must add? I mean, it's one thing to be part of a political party, it's one thing to be loyal to NPP, but it's a whole level of dishonesty and insincerity and being disingenuous if the government engages in actions like this. National Assembly is not summoning the government of the Gambia to come and explain or justify how these monies are being spent on Meet the Farmer store. How can you waste a lot more money for a tour that is meant to support the farmers, which in fact is not? So we need to have a really important conversation about these trips, because they are constitutionally guaranteed or constitutionally obligated does not necessarily even mean the government have to go and just spend money in excess. We don't have much. The Gambia is a highly impoverished nation. And the fact that there is going to be election next year is points to a very worrying and anticipatory habit of spending that this government is probably going to do. So we need to be really careful as a country. We need to not normalize this kind of conduct or behavior. We have to call the government to account. The government needs to move away from this taking thousands of people with them for these trips, leaving all the ministers leaving their job to join the president's caravan to go around the country to politicize this event and just waste all of our country's resources. The reason why we're so poor is not just because we don't have resources, but it's also we always miss our priorities as a country. Our priorities as a country is always misplaced. For a country that don't have much, we basically don't really have much. How are we able to afford to spend 63 million Gambian dollars on the Meet the People store? Can you imagine how much money this government are going to spend next year? So we need to do better as a society, but we also as a public needs to be watchdogs and call our National Assembly members from the various constituencies and ask them questions for them to do their job. That's the bare minimum that they could do. Nobody is saying do not support the government development agenda, but they need to do their job. They need to actually really and truly do their job.